Here is a question we received recently. I'm a recent grad with no money, so how can I move abroad? Where the best place to start over with no money? In this episode, we will give you the answer. But first, a bit of context. 10 years ago, I was also a recently graduated countryside boy with no money in the bank. But somehow I managed to move abroad. The first country I will mention today is where I moved to. I lived there until I moved to the next country, which is also on this list. Then I moved to another country, which, you guessed it, it's also on this list. One caveat: just because I say you can move without money to these countries, that I will mention in the next few minutes, it doesn't mean you don't need any skills or qualifications. In fact, it's the other way around. Almost all of these countries will want something from the people who come to live there. Either a certain degree or a well-written business plan. But don't worry about the money, they will help you get it. However, before we begin the list of countries, I would like to ask a small favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Let's start with the first country where I moved to with no money and no solid career, Chile. And by the way, this is not a rank, and the countries are basically in order of convenience. All of them are fine if you have the skills they need. So almost every time someone talks about moving to Chile, the person means Santiago. The Chilean capital alone concentrates almost 1/3 of the entire country's population. It's also the financial center of the nation. So unless you are planning to work in Chile's northern mine industry or with tourism in the dazzling southern regions, it is likely you will live around Santiago. In Chile they have a business incubator called Startup Chile. This organization receives funds from the Chilean Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Development and Tourism, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Ministry of the Interior. And this means one thing: they have the resources to fund good ideas. For approved business plans, Startup Chile provides up to $78,000 in equity-free funding through different support programs. In addition to the funds, they grant the entrepreneur a 1-year work visa and a list of business contacts. You don't even need to speak Spanish for all that. Chile also has a few boom industries like mining and tourism that hire foreign young professionals with little to no experience. I was one of them. What do you need to live in Chile? Well, a good business plan containing a proper competitive analysis if you want to launch an enterprise and access Startup Chile funds, or if you want to be hired by a company you need the skills required by industries like mining, especially copper mining. And what about the disadvantages of living in Chile? Well, after decades of economic growth, journalists nicknamed Chile the South American Tiger, but in recent years, the country reached a plateau and some negative indicators like violence and unemployment increased. The next country on the list is actually 3, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Bahrain. So yeah, here instead of one country, I grouped 3. And the reason for that is that they are similar, although someone that lives in Doha, like me, would never compare it with Dubai in terms of things like entertainment. While in Chile, most of the expatriates converge to Santiago, in the United Arab Emirates, they will be in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, some of them also in Sharjah. In Qatar, this place would be Doha. And in Bahrain, the logical choice is... And when we talk about immigrants in the GCC, the region, comprising those 3 countries plus a few others, we are not talking about a smaller share of their population. Quite opposite, foreigners make up the largest portion of these Arabic countries. They represent, for example, an overwhelming 88.5% of the entire United Arab Emirates population. And if you have the knowledge employers are looking for, they will provide you with all the basic needs plus a comfortable salary. Industries like finance, air transportation, and oil and gas actively seek Western professionals to fill both entry and managerial roles. Now let's talk about some disadvantages of these 3 countries. The first, high living costs. The second, and quite obvious, is the scorching heat during half of the year at least. And the third are the cultural idiosyncrasies that may cause a considerable cultural shock for Westerners. Although in the UAE or Bahrain, they are less evident than in neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia. The next country is Canada. While Canada is the second largest country in the world, here we focus on a specific region called Saskatchewan. It's a province larger than France, but with little over 1 million inhabitants. And that means lots of land and prairies. If you got a degree and would like a bucolic life, this is a good place for you. For tuition reimbursements, of up to 20,000 Canadian dollars. This cash and graduate rotation program was created to convince young people to remain in the province once they finish their studies. But it's now used as a recruitment tool to bring in young professionals from around the world. Besides the tuition reimbursement, the region offers a tax rebate of up to $20,000 Canadian dollars to its inhabitants. The exact amount depends on what is your diploma and is paid over in 7 years. And what are the disadvantages of living in Canada? First and most obvious, high taxes. And somehow another disadvantage are the specialized requirements, quite strict in terms of skills and qualifications that are eligible for the immigration program. And the next country is Italy. And I started this section about Italy by stating a fact. There are places there where you can buy real estate for €1. This sale price is a symbolic value for abandoned houses and train stations. While the prospective owner of these properties will need to invest in renovation, local governments often offer extra help. The Sicilian town of Troina, which is not the one that are seeing the footage right now, for example, offers successful applicants a restyle bonus of up to €15,000 plus another €10,000 for energy efficiency upgrades. There is a requirement for a €5,000 deposit, but they return it to you once renovations are done. Now let's talk about the disadvantages. At least to purchase a house in the €1 program, the person needs to present a well-rounded renovation plan. The investor also needs to handle the purchase bureaucracy, and Italy is quite a bureaucratic country for European standards. And the last one, Poland, which is probably the most unexpected name on this list. But if you are willing to invest in a fast-growing economy, but stable at the same time, this country is a good choice. That is one of the reasons I moved to Poland. Poland is one of the countries with the smallest financial requirements for obtaining an entrepreneur visa, 100,000 zlotys or more. This is equivalent to $22,000. Now you may say to me, but wait, you told me about having no money and now you are talking about €20,000? And yes, indeed I am. But the secret is you don't need to have this money in your account. Because, as I said, Poland is a stable country with an attractive economy. So, with a decent business plan and some pitch training, you can find investors. That's what I did. The second way to move to Poland with no money is to work in IT. IT professionals in Poland are well paid when compared to most professions because there is a deficit in qualified people, and the tech industry in the country is really soaring. Now it's time to mention some disadvantages of living in Poland. And while in large cities like Warsaw and Krakow, one can live without speaking Polish, dealing with public offices or living in smaller cities can represent a challenge because there is a language barrier. There is also an increasing tax burden. Another issue is that the rental and real estate costs in Warsaw are much higher than in the rest of the country, and they are already similar to many Western European capitals like Berlin. And finally, there is the risk of every overheated economy, which means inflation, which in some cases is already a reality. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe to our channel for the next ones.